Okay, let's go to the next sutta, 115, Bahudhatuka Sutta, the many kinds of elements. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, noble sir," they replied. The Blessed One said, "Monks, whatever fears arise, all arise because of the fool, not because of the wise man. Whatever troubles arise, all arise because of the fool, not because of the wise man. Whatever calamities arise, all arise because of the fool, not because of the wise man. Just as a fire that starts in a shed made of rushes or grass burns down even a house with a peaked roof, with walls plastered inside and outside, shut off, secured by bars with shuttered windows. So too, monks, whatever fears arise, all arise because of the fool, not because of the wise man. Thus the fool brings fear, the wise man brings no fear. The fool brings trouble, the wise man brings no trouble. The fool brings calamity, the wise man brings no calamity. No fear comes from the wise man, no trouble comes from the wise man, no calamity comes from the wise man. Therefore, monks, you should train thus. We shall be wise men, we shall be inquirers." Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, all problems in the world arise because of foolish people. Foolish people create problems for themselves as well as for others. Also, as far as fear is concerned, our mind state is very important. Fears arise because we have fear inside of us. Sometimes we put the blame outside, but actually fear arises because we have fear inside. If we do not have fear inside, and whatever happens outside, we will not have fear. Okay, let's see what is elaborated. When this was said, the Venerable Ananda asked the Blessed One, "In what way, Venerable Sir, can a monk be called a wise man and an inquirer?" When Ananda, a monk, is skilled in the elements, skilled in the bases, skilled in dependent origination, skilled in what is possible and what is impossible, in that way he can be called a wise man and an inquirer. But Venerable Sir, in what way can a monk be called skilled in the elements? There are, Ananda, these 18 elements, the eye element, the form element, the eye consciousness element, the ear element, the sound element, the ear consciousness element, the nose element, the odor element, the nose consciousness element, the tongue element, the flavor element, the tongue consciousness element, the body element, the tangible element, the body consciousness element, the mind element, the mind object element, the mind consciousness element. When he knows and sees these 18 elements, a monk can be called skilled in the elements. Stop here for a moment. This is talking about the 6 sense bases, salayatana, and the internal sense base are the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And their corresponding objects are form, sound, smells, taste, touch, and thoughts. So, for each of the sense bases, when you have a good eye and form appears before the eye consciousness will arise. Similarly for the other sense bases. But Venerable Sir, might there be another way in which a monk can be called skilled in the elements? There might be, Ananda. There are, Ananda, these 6 elements, the earth element, water element, fire element, air element, space element, and the consciousness element. When he knows and sees these 6 elements, a monk can be called skilled in the elements. So these are the 4 great elements, earth, water, fire, and air or wind, makes up the rupa. Rupa is defined as the 4 great elements, or the materiality arising for the 4 great elements. So the space element and the consciousness element. Okay. Consciousness element is part of the mind. But Venerable Sir, might there be another way in which a monk can be called skilled in the elements? There might be ananda. There are ananda, these 6 elements: the pleasure element, the pain element, the joy element, the grief element, the equanimity element, and the ignorance element. When he knows and sees these 6 elements, a monk can be called skilled in the elements. So here the pleasure and pain element refers to the body, pleasure and pain. Joy and grief refers to the mental, and the equanimity element and the ignorance. When there is neither pain nor joy, and if that person is aware of it, then he feels equanimity, the equanimity element. But usually the neither painful nor pleasant feeling, because it is not like pain or pleasure, it tends to be ignored. So then you get the ignorance element. But Venerable Sir, might there be another way in which a monk can be called skilled in the elements? There might be ananda. There are ananda, these 6 elements: sensual desire element, renunciation element, ill will element, non-ill will element, cruelty element, and the non-cruelty element. When he knows and sees these 6 elements, a monk can be called skilled in the elements. So these 6 refers to the wrong and the right thoughts. Right thoughts are thoughts of renunciation, non-ill will and non-cruelty, and wrong thoughts are the opposite. But Venerable Sir, might there be another way in which a monk can be called skilled in the elements? There might be ananda. There are ananda, these 3 elements: sense sphere element, fine material element, and the immaterial element. When he knows and sees these 3 elements, a monk can be called skilled in the elements. This refers to the Kama Loka, Rupa Loka, and Arupa Loka, the sense sphere realm, the form realm and the formless realm, the 3 planes of existence in a world system. But Venerable Sir, might there be another way in which a monk can be called skilled in the elements? There might be ananda. There are ananda, these 2 elements, the conditioned element and the unconditioned element. When he knows and sees these 2 elements, a monk can be called skilled in the elements. This condition refers to everything in the world and the universe, and the unconditioned is Nibbana. But Venerable Sir, in what way can a monk be called skilled in the bases? There are ananda, these 6 internal and external bases: the eye and forms, ear and sounds, nose and odors, tongue and flavors, body and tangibles, mind and mind objects. When he knows and sees these 6 internal and external bases, a monk can be called skilled in the bases. So this refers to the 6 sense bases, which we already mentioned just now. But Venerable Sir, in what way can a monk be called skilled in dependent origination? Here, ananda, a monk knows thus: when this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. That is, with ignorance as condition, volition comes to be. With volition as condition, consciousness. With consciousness as condition, mentality, materiality. With mentality, materiality as condition, the 6-fold base. With the 6-fold base as condition, contact. With contact as condition, feeling. With feeling as condition, craving. With craving as condition, clinging. With clinging as condition, being. With being as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. But with the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance, there comes cessation of volition. With the cessation of volition, cessation of consciousness. With the cessation of consciousness, cessation of mentality, materiality. With the cessation of mentality, materiality, cessation of the 6-fold base. With the cessation of the 6-fold base, cessation of contact. With the cessation of contact, cessation of feeling. With the cessation of feeling, cessation of craving. With the cessation of craving, cessation of clinging. With the cessation of clinging, cessation of being. With the cessation of being, cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. In this way, Ananda, a monk can be called skilled in dependent origination. In this dependent origination, the Buddha says everything in the world arises due to causes and conditions. So the basic formula, when this exists, that comes to be. Because something exists, it brings about the existence of something else. Because something arises, it causes some other thing to arise. But when something ceases, it causes some other things to cease. So, as far as suffering is concerned, the 12 links of dependent origination are stated here. First condition for suffering to arise is ignorance, ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. When we don't know the Dhamma, we keep turning in the round of rebirths, suffering. So, ignorance, because of ignorance, we have volition. Volition, basically the will to live. So it is because of the will to live that consciousness arises. Consciousness, as I mentioned before, is not an unending stream of consciousness. Consciousness arises and passes away extremely fast. In 1 second, many times this consciousness arises and passes away. Consciousness arises and passes away. So each time it passes away, it is volition, the will to live, that makes the next consciousness arise again. So consciousness keeps arising because of our will to live. So our will to live is very strong. It causes consciousness to arise. So when consciousness arises, it comes together with nama rupa, mentality, materiality, which is phenomena, what we are conscious of, makes up the world. So mentality, materiality makes up the internal world and the external world. So after that, you have salayatana, the sixfold base, the six sense bases, because consciousness must lodge itself or must arise at the six sense bases, because there are 6 types of consciousness. The eye consciousness, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind consciousness. So that arises at the 6 sense bases. So that's why you have 6 sense bases. And when you have the 6 sense bases, you have contact, the internal sense base and the external sense base makes contact. And when there is contact, feeling arises. And if you have pleasant feeling, then you crave for it. You crave for it and you cling to it. Craving is followed by clinging. And because of craving and clinging, this being arises. You have this perception, I exist. I want this. I cannot live without this. So that being, that I, comes into existence. So that's why sometimes it's translated as being. Sometimes it's translated as existence. So once you have being, you see yourself existing in the world. Then you think that you are born into the world. And if you don't have being, then you don't think that you are born. You're just like a tree. A tree doesn't think it is born in the world. But because you have a being, then you think, I am born. So when you see yourself born into the world, and then later you will age and become sick and die, and all types of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair arise. This is the origin of the whole mass of suffering. So the converse is true. When one ceases, it causes the other to cease, just like domino. Okay. But Venerable Sir, in what way can a monk be called skilled in what is possible and what is impossible? Here, Ananda, a monk understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could treat any volition as permanent. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might treat some volition as permanent. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could treat any volition as pleasurable. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might treat some volition as pleasurable. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could treat anything as self. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might treat something as self. There is such a possibility. I'll stop here for a moment. So here this word, sankhara, a lot of books translate it as formation or volitional formation or mental formation. But I prefer this word volition or intention, because in many cases that we see that this word sankhara means volition. For example, in the five aggregates and in the dependent origination. And there is a saying, sabbe sankhara anicchati, all volitions are impermanent. Why? Because I feel that the world is created by volition. Whenever we have volition, we cause something to happen, our will, we cause something to happen. So things happen in the world. Basically, the creator of the world, I think, is volition. That's my view. So if volition is impermanent and volition causes things to appear, then since what appears in the world depends on volition, which is impermanent, and whatever appears is even more impermanent. Just as the Buddha said, a tree causes a shadow to appear, and the shadow is impermanent. The shadow depends on the tree, depends on sunlight and other conditions. So if the conditions for the shadow to appear, namely the sunlight, the tree and all that, is impermanent, then the shadow is even more impermanent. So that's why if volition is impermanent, then volition is a condition for other things to appear, then other things are even more impermanent. Okay. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could deprive his mother of life. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might deprive his mother of life. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could deprive his father of life, could deprive an arahant of life. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might deprive his father of life, might deprive an arahant of life. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could, with the mind of hatred, shed a Tathagata's blood. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might, with the mind of hatred, shed a Tathagata's blood. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person possessing right view could cause a schism in the Sangha, could acknowledge another teacher. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that an ordinary person might cause a schism in the Sangha, might acknowledge another teacher. There is such a possibility. Stop here for a moment. Here refers to 6 things. The first 5 are the heaviest karmic offenses, evil karmic offenses that somebody can do. These 5 is to kill your mother, to kill your father, to kill an arahant, then to intentionally injure a Sammasambuddha, causing the blood to flow. And the 5th one is to cause a schism of the Sangha, a Sangha of monks that is in concord. You cause the Sangha to split into 2 Sanghas. So these 5 are the heaviest karmic offenses a person can do. And if anyone does one of these 5 deeds, the moment he dies, he will be sure to go to hell for a long time, a world cycle at least. So the last one, the 6th one, he might acknowledge another teacher. This one, Arya, if a person becomes an Arya, a noble person, he will acknowledge that his teacher is the Buddha. Buddha acknowledged the Triple Gem as his refuge, and he will not follow another teacher. But an ordinary person, Putujana, can follow another teacher even after coming to Buddhism. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that two Arahants, Sammasambuddhas, could arise contemporaneously in one world system. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that one Arahant, Sammasambuddha, might arise in one world system. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that two wheel-turning monarchs could arise contemporaneously in one world system. It is possible that one wheel-turning monarch might arise in one world system. There is such a possibility. In the Buddha's teachings, there is at any one time there is only one Sammasambuddha. And the Buddha mentioned that he looked into the past 91 world cycles. He only saw 6 Sammasambuddhas. So it's very difficult to meet a Sammasambuddha. But Pacceka Buddhas, there are many. We'll come across that. In the next sutta, the Buddha talks about many Pacceka Buddhas. So the same with this universal monarch, a wheel-turning monarch, is a king who is so good, he rules by Dhamma. So he's so popular that the whole world, all the countries in the world want him to rule. So he rules the whole world, the whole earth. Such a person also is very hard to come across, such a virtuous king. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a woman could be an Arahant Sammasambuddha. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that a man might be an Arahant Sammasambuddha. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a woman could be a wheel-turning monarch, that a woman could occupy the position of Sakka Devaraja, that a woman could occupy the position of Mara, that a woman could occupy the position of Brahma. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that a man might be a wheel-turning monarch, that a man might occupy the position of Sakka Devaraja, that a man might occupy the position of Mara, that a man might occupy the position of Brahma. There is such a possibility. Stop here for a moment. So here, a woman cannot become these few things, Sammasambuddha. Sammasambuddha we know because Sammasambuddha, I mentioned before, usually is Anagamin, come back the last time. So there is no more Dhamma in the world. He has to struggle extremely hard. The Buddha said that when he struggled for enlightenment, he suffered so much that nobody suffered, no ascetic suffered more than him. The Buddha said, at the most, any ascetic in the past, present or future can only equal the amount of suffering he went through to attain enlightenment. So a woman cannot stand that type of hardship. A man can. And for the other positions, a woman also cannot become Mara, Sakadeva Raja, etc. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that an unwished for, undesired, disagreeable result could be produced from good bodily conduct, from good verbal conduct, from good mental conduct. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that a wished for, desired, agreeable result might be produced from good bodily conduct, from good verbal conduct, from good mental conduct. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible. It cannot happen that a person engaging in bodily misconduct, engaging in verbal misconduct, engaging in mental misconduct could on that account, for that reason, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that a person engaging in bodily misconduct, engaging in verbal misconduct, engaging in mental misconduct, might on that account, for that reason, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a state of deprivation in an unhappy destination. in perdition, even in hell. There is such a possibility. He understands it is impossible, it cannot happen that a person engaging in good bodily conduct, engaging in good verbal conduct, engaging in good mental conduct could on that account, for that reason, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a state of deprivation in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. There is no such possibility. And he understands it is possible that a person engaging in good bodily conduct, engaging in good verbal conduct, engaging in good mental conduct might on that account, for that reason, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. In this way, Ananda, a monk can be called skilled in what is possible and what is impossible. So here concerning karma, the Buddha says, karma is such that if you do good karma, good conduct through the body, speech or mind, the result to be expected is that you will get a good rebirth, you will be happy because of that action. And if you do some evil, harming others to the body, speech or mind, then you can expect to suffer for it and not the reverse. But sometimes karma is so complicated, the Buddha says. Sometimes it can happen that a person has led a good life and he has done more good deeds than evil deeds. But at the moment of dying, sometimes evil karma from the past might come into his memory just as he's about to die. Then when he remembers that past evil karma, maybe done a few lifetimes ago, it is possible that evil karma can bring him to a woeful destination of rebirth. So he goes to a woeful destination of rebirth because of some past evil karma, not because of the good deeds he has done. Karma is such that you benefit others, you make others happy, you will reap happiness. But if you do evil, harm others, make others unhappy, you will suffer for it. When this was said, the Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous. What is the name of this discourse on the Dhamma?" And the Buddha said, "You may remember this discourse on the Dhamma, Ananda, as the many kinds of elements, or as the 4 cycles, and as the mirror of the Dhamma, and as the drum of the deathless, and as the supreme victory in battle." That is what the Blessed One said, and the Venerable Ananda was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. That's the end of the sutta. Okay, I think, let me see. Okay, I think that's all I have to say on these 2 suttas. Anything to discuss? Oh no, definitely not, because we have read that Arya will never be reborn in the woeful plains of rebirth. If the karma was so serious, he could not have become an Arya. It's only as we read some just now that let me see. I would say it's quite interesting. The acquisition of individuality in the Sutta 114. The Buddha says, when a person generates an acquisition of individuality that is subject to affliction, unwholesome states increase and wholesome states diminish in him, preventing him from putting an end to being. But when a person generates an acquisition of individuality that is free from affliction, unwholesome states diminish and wholesome states increase in him, enabling him to put an end to being. So if a person becomes an Arya, he's on his way to end being. So he will not be reborn in a woeful plane.
Okay, when I switch around in the morning, a lot of things, and sometimes I think it's harmful.
Harmful what? Say again? It's harmful?
The ground.
Yeah.
Inevitably, I touch the ants. They seem to be very angry with me, the red ants. So, how do I deal with this one?
You're the one sweeping the floor, you have to think. If you can avoid it, you avoid it lah. You may sweep at some other time. Or if you find it's disturbing to you, one thing you can do is you can get a pipe, bring the pipe water and jet at them, make them go away.
So what I did was to avoid the spaces where I'm.
It depends lah. For example, like in the sala, we sweep with this soft broom. So if you think you don't kill them, it's okay to sweep lah. Or sometimes like you wash the floor, there's a lot of ants. You wash with water, and they go into the drain. They won't die so easily. They go into the drain, then they climb up the drain. That's okay lah. If you know you don't kill them, then it's okay.
Actually, when I first found them, I had no pollution, no chasing.
Yeah, that is a mitigating factor, but also you must see whether it really kills them or not. So if you think the possibility is that you don't kill them, then it's okay to sweep but if you think you might kill them then you don't do you try to sweep some other place it's not too important to sweep Yes. In the Vinaya, the Buddha has stated that his disciples, monks, are not allowed to have communion, that means associate with other monks or even Buddhist monks who practice a different Dhamma Vinaya. So if their Dhamma is different, or their Vinaya is different, we're not allowed to associate with them. For example, if they follow a different Dhamma, for example, instead of following the original Buddha Suttas, they follow Mahayana Suttas. We're not allowed to associate with them because they have different view as far as the Dhamma is concerned. And if they practice a different Vinaya, for example, they don't keep the precepts, also not allowed to associate with them.
somehow it is almost more of the same situation in the sense that they don't become one, they don't become material, gossip, you know. So we can even in childhood we cannot be interested in them. So if that don't mean that they are not being friendly.
You can be friendly to a certain extent. For example, we find in the suttas sometimes the Buddha and his disciples, sometimes in the morning they want to go on alms round and they see that it's too early to go on alms round. Then they go to the wondrous park and they talk to these wanderers. Even though they have different Dhammavinaya, just maintain some friendliness, but don't want to spend too much time with them. No? Even animals, we want to be friendly to them, right? So with human beings also we can just be friendly without looking down on them. The Buddha says that if we practice the Dhamma Vinaya correctly, we don't look down on anybody, even if they don't hold the precept or they don't follow the Dhamma. We just pity them. We know they are going to not a good destination of rebirth. Some people you just can't help. They won't listen to you. So you don't need to make effort if you know they're not going to listen to you. So you just maintain some friendliness. There's some characteristics of some people which are quite difficult to change. This ill will or anger is one of them. And to overcome this, there are two ways. One is to learn the Dhamma more. When we learn the Dhamma more, then we learn to be humble. To be more humble, not to be so arrogant, not to be so domineering. You remember some of the suttas we heard the Buddha says that there are certain unwholesome states that we should get rid of, domineering character and arrogance and being very strong in your views and all that. So learning the Dhamma is one way. When we study more of the Buddha's words, we learn these things are not good for us. So if they are not good for us, why do we keep doing it? Because we're going to pay for it. And sometimes the result is much worse than you can imagine. I always like to quote this example. One of our devotees told me that he had an auntie, and this auntie has a very nasty temper, very prone to anger and hatred. So 2 days before she passed away, the two Dracula teeth came out, very long Dracula teeth came out. Fangs. And the children were surprised and They tried to cover the mouth, they could not cover it. And then 2 days later when she died, the 2 teeth disappeared. That shows that she was going to be reborn as a ghost with that long teeth. So when we, our character is such, if you, as we say, ngao ching, gu care, your character is like an animal, you will be reborn in the animal realm. And if you are like this ghost type of character, selfish and bad character, and all, angry and all this, you'll be born as a fierce ghost. So it's not worth it. You don't know how much you have to pay for it. This round of rebirths, our karma makes us suffer for a long time. The other way is sometimes people find very hard to change because we don't have the strength of mind. A lot of weaknesses, for example, like being a drug addict, being an alcoholic, all these things, and also having a lot of anger. It's very hard to change because we don't have the strength of mind to change. So meditation is one way. When we meditate, we become calmer and calmer. And if you can attain to this assess concentration, upachara samadhi, which is very near to jhana, as I mentioned, as the sutta says, brightness wells up from within you, and then you feel so peaceful. After that, even you have reason to get angry, so you don't want to get angry. Because when you get angry, all the upsets your system. A lot of people who have a lot of temper, they get headache, they get migraine because their temper is too bad. So it's not worth it. So two ways. One is to be strong in the mind, and the other one is to know the Dhamma. When you know the Dhamma, then you know the consequences. As some suttas say, if somebody offers you a drink, it's the most delicious drink in the world. Not only the flavor, even the aroma is so good, but it is mixed with a bit of what we call it, cyanide, arsenic, bit of poison. If you drink it, you're either going to die or you're going to be half dead with the suffering. Do you want to drink it? It might be the most delicious drink in the world, but it's not worth it. Somebody tempts you also, you don't want it because you know it's not good for you. So the Buddha used this simile to see a lot of these things in the world are like that. Seems very delicious, seems very attractive, but actually, as they say, Thao Ti Boi Kho. How do you say in Cantonese? Xin Tim Hao Fu. Xin Fu. Xin Tim Hao Fu. A lot of things in the world are like that. Xin Tim Hao Fu. So just like the poisonous drink, it's so delicious, but after you take it, you have to pay for it. So a lot of things in this world are like that. Mara's bait, the Buddha always says, Mara's bait, tempt us. So you are foolish, you are covered with delusion. There's some sutta, I think we read, somebody who's very thirsty, and he's blur. Somebody offers him this most delicious drink in the world, like cappuccino, coffee. It smells also so good. Blur, you quickly drink it. But if you are not blur, you think carefully. Buddha says, whenever we want to do anything, before we do, we reflect well. Then when we are doing it also, we must reflect what we are doing, is it correct or not. And after doing also, we must reflect again. That's how to purify our three karmas. The Buddha always says, before doing, think carefully, while doing and after doing. So it's only somebody who doesn't know the Dhamma, and also because his mind is very blurred, that he doesn't think carefully like that. And this you see quite often in the newspaper. Somebody at a moment of weakness, he rapes the daughter or rapes the granddaughter. Then later he regrets. Too late already. So a lot of other things. Sometimes you find the paper, father and son quarrel, suddenly the son take the parang and hack the father to death. After that, they regret. So when we are not in control of our mind, we are blur. At that moment, we are insane. At that moment, we are overcome by our emotions. Temporarily, we are insane. We do things, later we regret. That's why it's so important to learn the Dhamma and to meditate, clear our mind so that we don't be blur. That's a problem with a lot of people. You don't take the Dhamma seriously enough. You don't see the value of the Dhamma, that it is going to benefit you for many, many lifetimes. So a lot of people don't take it seriously enough. So we learn a bit of Dhamma, but after that we don't want to devote too much time. But it's worth the trouble to devote as much time as you can to learn the Buddha's words, to listen to the CDs on the Nikayas, and then after that to spend your time to meditate. Because you think about it, life is very short. How much time do we have? You don't have much time, especially if you are old, you even have less time. So whatever time we have now, if you don't use it wisely, at the end of life, you see a lot of people, they regret it. I didn't live my life properly. A few years ago, one of my monk friends, he died of cancer. When he had cancer, he didn't believe also. He didn't believe the doctor told him he had cancer, refused to believe. And when I went to see him the last time, he told me that he realized he didn't lead a very good monk's life. Things probably he thought he should have done, he didn't do. So you see, even wear the robe already, still can waste your time. So very careful. We have to be very careful. A lot of people are like that. At the end of life, they regret this, they regret that. That's why I always tell people, in life, many things, the chance only comes once. We walk through life only once. If you don't use it properly, at the end, you regret. And you regret not just that moment, you regret for many lifetimes. When you have to pay for it, you have to suffer. So the Dhamma teaches us to be skillful in life. That's the purpose of the Dhamma, to lead a skillful life, not to lead a careless life. A lot of people lead a careless life, and then they have to pay for it with tears. Okay.